Welcome back to Hannity. Hollywood A-lister Vince Vaughn is wading into the gun debate, but not in a way you may think. Now, the star told British GQ magazine, quote, "I support people having a gun in public, full stop, not just in your home. Now, we don't have the right to bear arms because of burglars. We have the right to bear arms to resist the supreme power of a corrupt and abusive government. It's not about duck hunting. It's about the ability of the individual. It's the same reason we have freedom of speech." Now, when asked about guns in schools, Vaughn told the magazine, quote, "In all our schools, it is illegal to have guns on campus. So again and again, these guys go and shoot these bleep schools because, well, they know there are no guns there. These monsters are killing 6-year-olds. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor, host of the Outdoor Channel's first documentary, Safe Haven, Gun-Free Zones in America, Katie Pavlich, and the former executive director for Every Town for Gun Safety, Mark Glaze. Mark, let me ask you a question. God forbid, and I mean this as a sincere question, somebody breaks into your house or your kid's school and they have some weapon. What are you going to do in your house? What's going to happen in your son or daughter's school?
Well, first of all, as Mr. Vaughn pointed out, you do actually have the right under the Supreme Court to have a gun in your house for self-defense.
I understand, but not in a school. What, do you have a gun in your house?
If I had one, I would and should use it. Schools are a different setting.
No, I asked you first, what would you do? Do you have a gun in your house?
Not in my house now, no.
No. What would you do? Somebody breaks into your house. A home is broken into every 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds in America. What will you do?
Well, I would realize the statistics that tell me that if I had a gun in the house, I am much more likely to use that gun to injure myself or somebody else accidentally.
I'm not going to dispute that. What will you do is a very specific question. I didn't ask you about the talking points. Tell me what you'll do. What are you going to do? Break into your house?
Well, I would probably try to fend them off in some other way, and if that's not possible,
How?
I would let the police handle it.
Let the police handle it. By the time you call the police, you're going to be dead.
Yeah, but let's not focus on one person.
Let's not focus on a real-life situation.
Let's look at what actually happens in the culture.
Now, well, let's talk about the classroom. So, would you rather that schools have either armed guards with guns, or would you rather maybe professionals with law enforcement with weapons be in your son or daughter's school if it's ever attacked? Would you prefer that they be there?
So some schools have that option, and they have taken the option. But what most law enforcement
would you prefer in your son or daughter's school?
And what most teachers have told you is that having more guns in that situation doesn't necessarily help when somebody goes trying to attempt suicide.
I think you want to ask your own questions and answer. I'm asking a specific question. Would you prefer your son or daughter, if there was a gun incident in their school, God forbid, and I mean that there be a professional security guard, former police officer, retired officer with a gun? Would you prefer them there or not?
My preference would be that we keep guns out of the wrong hands to begin with, rather than deputizing teachers.
You wouldn't want the police there in your school for your kids if somebody came in wanting to hurt these kids?
I think if you're living in a dangerous area and that makes sense, I should have that choice, and I would probably want it. But that's something that most schools and most teachers don't want.
Kate, well, I disagree that you're assuming something. Katie, I mean, I think this makes a point. They're defenseless, these kids in schools. I applaud Vince Vaughn for what he said.
Yeah, what he said was very refreshing and actually very factually true. And the majority of Americans, according to Rasmussen's report, 62% of American parents would feel better if there were armed guards in their children's schools. And the fact is, as Vince Vaughn cited, since 1950, only 2 mass shootings have occurred outside of gun-free zones. And gun-free zones aren't gun-free. They allow for criminals, as we've all discussed, to come in and prey on people who have no other defense. And the fact is that people should have that right in that respect. And let me just talk about this real quickly in terms of the schools and the statistics. Utah has allowed teachers to carry concealed weapons into schools for years. They've never had an incident. There's a school district in Texas that has trained teachers to carry concealed weapons in schools. They haven't had an incident. On college campuses in Colorado, where they have concealed carry, they haven't had an incident. So when the left says Katie, that they can't handle it, there's going to be all these accidents, it's just not true.
What would you want if your kids were ever in a school that, God forbid, was attacked? Would you want an armed guard, an armed security guard, a retired policeman?
Sean, I don't just want an armed guard. I want a trained teacher with a concealed weapons permit to be in the classroom, because here's the thing about armed guards. They still can't be in every classroom. So when you have an active shooter going into a classroom and you have an armed guard at the front door at a big school, they're still not going to make it in time. So concealed carry for teachers who take the option is the only option to protect our kids.
Let's talk about reality for a second.
We are talking about reality. This is reality.
You are asking for us to deputize teachers around the country to have armed shootouts over the heads of 6 6-year-olds like my
Armed
son.
shootouts.
It's not going to happen.
That is
Okay,
a bit
Mark, would you rather have a
something
teacher
eventful.
shoot back, or would you rather have someone like Adam Lanza walk into a classroom and
No,
be
I
able to
would
have
rather-
free
I would
reign when you have a
rather-
teacher shooting back?
I would rather swat aside the red herring you're
All right,
dangling
I gotta
and say
roll.
we know what to do to keep
Guys, thank
guns out
you.
of the wrong hands in the first place.
I think we made our case. Thank you both for being with us.